the rings that we just looked at, that was for sizing purposes and design purposes only. We don't have a final cost as of right now. We will call you and let you know everything in detail as soon as we make it official. So we don't have all the answers right now as far as when we'll be getting them, the exact cost for each one of them. We don't have those details yet, but we hope to have them very soon. Also, Friday night, it's Carterville night, the minors game. They want to introduce us. They want a couple people to throw out the first pitch of the game. There's been talk about us singing the 7th inning stretch. Take me out to the ball game. So if you are unable to be there, please see me afterwards so I can make sure we get the correct number of tickets. All of your player tickets are free. Next week is the inaugural Southern Illinois All-Star or softball All-Star game. We have 3 people who were selected: Bailey, Montana, and Avery. Yes. It's a very big honor, and that game will be played at Rent One Park. It was originally scheduled at Charlotte West Stadium. I have a meeting about it tonight after I leave here to get more details on that. With all of that, they want to introduce our state championship team again during that night as well, with Trico as well. So you and Trico get to reminisce your state title runs and be on the field at the same time together. And again, your admission will be free. Okay? So this Friday, next Thursday, pictures and the rings were basically the maintenance things I wanted to take care of before I got started. There's obviously some thank yous I want to pass along. There's so many people to thank. There's been a nice flyer that has been printed out for you and set on your table about all the businesses that came together to provide this meal. One of them that was not put on there was Oliver and Associates. They donated a very gracious amount of money to our softball account, which after last weekend was kind of wiped out. all the meals, the ice cream, the hotel stay, and all those fun things that made the experience very enjoyable. Obviously, and I can't thank you enough, parents. You know, what you did to make this experience a special treat, I don't know if we can top that. As far as the charter bus, the escort out of town, we were talking, and it added a little extra pressure when we got that escort out of town. Coach Jeralds and I kind of looked at each other and said, "We better win this thing." But again, when these types of experiences, these types of games, they don't come around very often. I mean, we've had some very, very, very good teams that didn't make it. It didn't get there. In years past, we thought, okay, we're going. There's no question in my mind. And we don't get there. It takes luck. It takes a ball sneaking through the infield. It takes an error by the opposing team. All the breaks have to go your way because it's such a highly competitive area. And again, it's just an experience you don't get to do very often, and you guys did it right. So thank you, parents. To the players, I've been in your shoes before. I know how difficult it is, especially as a senior. Your head coach, your assistant coach, the guy you played for since you've been in 6th grade, the guy you played for since you've been in high school. That's heartbreaking. It's crushing, when they announce it. And I when I say I share your experience, in 6th grade, all I wanted to do was play football for Kerry Martin. I had the opportunity, all I prepared for was to play football for Kerry Martin. And I got to high school. He coached me all through my junior year. My senior year, he left for Marion. The anger as an 18-year-old, the 17-year-old, the 16-year-old that I felt, I know that feeling. But as I got older, I realized the decision had to be made, and he made the right one. So I just want to thank you for giving us the opportunity and trusting us, even though your hearts and had been broken. So thank you very much. And again, I'd like to also thank my wife. I kind of left her out at our community banquet. I kind of heard about it when we got to the parking lot. So I definitely want to thank her. And those of you, obviously, who have been coaches before, have coached your summer team, or coached in another sport, it's not just every day after school from 3:30 to 5:30, you get home at 6. It's you get home, you're on the phone with other coaches, you're doing scouting reports, and if you've met, many of you got to meet my 2-year-old daughter this past weekend. She's a handful. So having to come home after a full day of work and then not having me there until 6 o'clock, and sometimes, especially game nights, 8 o'clock, or even when I am home 8 o'clock because we're doing, softball related stuff, it takes a real saint to put up with that. And she never really ever, I can't remember one time that she said anything negative about coaching softball. She was behind me 100%. And I'm very grateful for that. It made the job a lot easier because I couldn't imagine having her angry at me beforehand. My coaches, Coach Ashton. Many of you may not know this, and I kind of got a chance to think about it on the way to Memphis this weekend. But Carterville softball is what it is today, in my opinion, because of Coach Ashton. He's the pioneer of Carterville softball. What I mean by that is he started a group of young girls, Brittany Ashton, Rochelle Runge, Kelsey Ashton, Laura Runge, and he worked with them from the time they were young. So by the time that they were in high school, they put Carterville softball on the map. And I give Coach Ashton so much credit for that because, again, the parents are just as much as a part of the success as the coaches are. Because honestly, without a dad or a mom working with their kids in the summertime, because our time is limited with these kids, he is, in my opinion, the pioneer of Carterville softball. He is a pitching guru. He knows pitching. When I first, got on board to take the job, one of the thoughts in my head was, I don't know pitching. I know my blind spot. I don't know pitching. I said, in order for us to be successful, I need Cody Ashton. We need Cody Ashton because he knows pitching. His daughter, is left-handed pitcher, led us to a state title, and some of the stories he's told me about his daughter that we're building a new house, right? And I'm like, I really want to finish the basement. Oh, don't finish the basement, Coach. I go, why not? And he goes, well, you want to keep that doorway open so your daughter can start throwing downstairs, and she'll hit her zones if you keep the doors open and keep the drywall off. I said, I never thought of that. So, another thing he did, he worked for free. He worked for free. He was here every single day and didn't get paid a dime. It takes a lot of commitment for somebody to do that. And I am forever grateful, as we all should be, that he was willing to do that. Because if it weren't for him, we're not having this celebration with this trophy here. So Coach Ashton, thank you very much. I'd also like to thank Coach Jeralds, obviously. I'll never forget the first time we sat down and talked together, and I said, it was December, it was in my classroom. And I said, I'm considering taking the softball job, but I'm not going to do it unless you commit to being my assistant. And he goes, he said some things to me, and I said, don't worry about it. We'll take care of it. I think coaching with people you enjoy coaching with people that you enjoy being around is of the utmost importance. Having somebody I consider one of my best friends to coach with is so important because I can sit there after a game and say, come to my house, we need to talk about this. Or I can call him and say, Coach, what do you think went wrong? We were at Monday night, him and I went to dinner, and we started talking about 2017. You don't do that with coaches you don't get along with. And I think part of the reason that we've been successful in the past and are going to be successful in the future is because you have those type of conversations. I don't think there's many coaching staffs in Southern Illinois that are going to have those conversations a week after they just want to stay tight. What I noticed out of him, he's a tireless worker. You know, every day he'd come to me just like, well, what do you think of this? I volunteered for 8 years, and I didn't know half the stuff that he learned until my 8th year of coaching, maybe 7th year of coaching. He worked hard at it. He made our outfield, in my opinion, the best in Southern Illinois. It's not even a question. So, Coach Jeralds, thank you for your effort, and again. A lot of funny stories, that happen, with this group throughout the season, and I'm pretty uptight. I never used to be uptight. I got to be the guy to come in, tell jokes, and have fun. And taking this position was a little bit different. I got a little stressed out and didn't compartmentalize very well all the time. And we're sitting in the Vienna game, regional championship game. It's a tight game, and it's the 6th inning, and we're up 1-0, I think, at this point. And Coach Jeralds and Coach Ashton, I'm calling pitches, and where do you want to eat tonight? I acted like I was ignoring them. I heard everything they were saying. None of which had to do with the pitch that was getting ready to be thrown or where our defense should be put. But they're trying to keep me light because I know if I'm uptight, they see it. And if they see it, then they're going to be uptight. So having them around it kept me at ease, it kept me level-headed, and I could not have done, and we could not have done what we did if it weren't for these two. So thank you to both. So before I introduce the players, I just kind of want to talk about the season review, and then Coach Ashton, Coach Jeralds are both going to say a little something. We finished with a 32-3 record, and I can describe our season with one word. And girls, you've heard me say it. What is it? Adversity. And I got to talk to a lot of people throughout the year, and one person told me this, and I'm sure you've heard it. I'm sure it's a quote from somebody important, but in life, and it's so true. And in life, it's not what you achieve, but it's what you overcome, and that's what you remember. We're all going to remember this state championship trophy. There's no question about it. But the things and the adversity that we had to overcome is what I will always remember. Now, what I mean by that is we lose our left fielder for the first for 4 games. We lose our starting catcher for the year. 15 games into the season. We lose Bailey to a knee injury for 3 weeks. We lose Avery to an arm injury. And other little illnesses and injuries that go along the way, or extracurricular activities that kids had to miss for. And all I kept thinking is, we just kept getting knocked down. I don't know if we're going to be able to get back up from this. But this team continued to push back, get back off the ground, pick each other up, and that is why they were so successful. They did not let an injury or somebody telling them that they can't do it, they did not let them keep them down. It truly was, we were comfortable being uncomfortable. I like to think of it in that way. So, again, like I said, I think that's why we were so successful. We never panicked. Because it happened all the time. We faced it all year long. We're scoreless against West Frankfort in the sectional semifinal game. Nobody panicked. I was. They weren't. We're in Carmine. We win that game 1-0. Nobody panicked except Carmine. When Sydney gets one through the infield and we score a run. Tuscola. Extra inning games. They hit a home run to tie it up, and I'm thinking, I don't know. It's going to be tough to come back with that. They have all the momentum right now. Did it again. It truly was magical to watch. But I think the reason that we were able to overcome all of that is because we were prepared for it. We were prepared for it through what we faced, throughout the year. So I use that one word to describe our season, the adversity we faced. There are several words that could describe our team. I mean, and I could go on and on and on. One of I think, depth. Depth describes our team very well. At the beginning of the year, you have a lot of people asking you, papers, other coaches, well, what do you think about your team? And I said, we have, multiple players that aren't going to start for us, that could start for any other team in Southern Illinois. And the reason, after all of those injuries happened, that depth is what kept us going. And it was seamless, a flawless transition. And, one girl would go down, another would come in. Another girl would go down, somebody else would come in. No other team could survive that. None. But because of our depth, we were able to. Toughness. I questioned their toughness one game this year. It was in Greenville after the Newton game. After that game, I never questioned it again. There was about a week in there, we were kind of, squeaking out some games against teams that were lesser opponents than us. And I finally got mad. And the Newton game, it was a Greenville tournament where we're playing 3 games in 90-degree heat. Chelsea Gooden catches 3 games for us. I go, Chelsea, I don't want to do this. I don't want you to do this. And then she goes, I'm fine. I can do it. And then both of those kind of go together. You think of, the depth. You have multiple kids not playing, but could start for any other team in Southern Illinois. You think about the toughness that this team has. And I think of a story that was told to our girls at the beginning of the year. It's about a Belgian horse. You ever heard of a Belgian horse? Remember that story, girls? Big, majestic. One of you has one, don't you? Montana? So we're getting a story told to us about a Belgian horse. And they're just these big, majestic horses. And they're used to pull the plows. And they can pull up to 8,000 pounds. And when, we're hearing the story. So we're pulling 8,000 pounds. And then he goes, when you put 2 of them together, how many pounds do you think they can pull together? Anybody? Don't say it. Anybody want to take a guess? Everybody knows this isn't an obvious answer. You would think what? What do you think off the top of your head? If one pulls 8,000, 2 would pull 16. 24,000 pounds. Now you're probably thinking, where's he going with this story? We could have, because of that depth, kids not starting. We could have had a lot of, tension pulling away from each other. But what our girls did, they pulled together. They pulled together, not away from each other. And it proved to make us unstoppable. When we get a chance to really sit back and reflect on this, years from now, it's going to be just amazing. Okay? Another adjective I would use to describe our team, fun. There's no question about it. Our dugout, at one point, you hear people telling us, you're the only thing we hear in this entire sports complex because you are so loud. And you know what? I look at our dugout, I see kids having a blast. And then I look at, I'm just throwing this name out, Harrisburg. You got a kid keeping the book, sitting down, not cheering their team on. And I'm thinking, that just can't be any fun. And then here we go. We're watching the highlights on News Channel 3, and I see the first thing they show, Marissa Hundley and Bailey Custer dancing in the dugout. The kids just had a great time. And, some people might call that arrogant. Okay, that's fine. None of you girls are arrogant. None of them are. But together, I think we kind of play with a chip on our shoulders. And that's fine. I think in order to be successful as a team, especially as a competitive sports team, you got to play with a little arrogance. And that's something we did. And, as a coach, one thing you do, and I'm going to tell you girls this too, as a coach, if any of you have aspirations of going on and playing, your social media is going to be checked. So after the Harrisburg game, I was just laying in bed early one morning, and their players were just, I can't believe Carterville's cheering in the dugout. And I'm thinking, we did our job. You know, if they're worried about what's happening in our dugout, then they're not worried about what's supposed to happen. You have no chance. If you're worried about our dugout, then you don't have a chance to beat us, instead of being worried about the game. And I think the last thing I would say about our team is, and it kind of, you know, encompasses all these adjectives, is we're selfless. Every one of them. You know, we get back to, you know, in the gym here for the community reception, and every one of our seniors, you know, they gave credit to everybody but themselves. We are getting ready to win we've won our super sectional game. Bailey, first thing she tells, you know, Coach Ashton is, I'm doing this for Avery. I think that's a pretty special thing to come out of, you know, 17, 18-year-old kids. You know, I'm 31, and sometimes I'm kind of selfish. I can't imagine, I couldn't imagine being 15, 16, 17, 18, and caring so much about everybody else. But again, that's what makes this team special, and that's what makes us successful. So again, that's just kind of an overview of the season. I'm going to turn it over to Coach Jeralds here. He has a few nice things to say. I'm going to go ahead. I think you might want to scoot it back just a tad. That sun's getting a little nasty right there. So Coach Jeralds, have at it, buddy. Good job.
Sorry, I gotta get some notes out. Cappi gave a good demonstration of what a speech looks like whenever you don't have notes. Now, back to whenever Cappi said that he came to me and said, I'm not doing this without you. And I said a few things. One of the things I told him, and I was up front with him, I know nothing about softball. I was like, are you sure? And as I'm looking at him, I'm like, and you want to take over a program that everybody knows. There was no secret. It was state or bust. I mean, it was just, they got to super sectional or sectional last year. You know, got the pitcher back. They're wanting to win a state title. You want to replace Brett Dial after 13 years, averaging 26 wins, went on and on and on, and you want me to replace Keenan Clark? I mean, I know I'm about a foot taller than him, but that's not all I got. Those two guys, in my opinion, could coach any team in the state of Illinois and be better than any coach that they have right now. And to come in and try to replace those guys, I thought he was crazy. But, you know, it was by far the best decision that I made. And I'm not saying that I realized that 3 weeks into the season. That had nothing to do with winning a state championship. Now that's awesome. But getting around this group, and I don't like to call them girls, I like to call them athletes, because that's what you are. You are the best group of athletes I've ever coached. And that's bar none. I mean, I realized 3 weeks into the season that I better start learning as much as I can about this sport, or I'm going to do you a disservice. And that's the best thing that ever happened to me as a coach. And the other best thing that ever happened to me as a coach was getting 2 best friends in the process. And through high school and college, it's going to be pretty easy to make friends. But once you get past that and you get in the workforce, finding good friends is very hard to do, okay? And then once in life, I mean, that's what you got. You got your family and your friends, so cherish that. So I didn't know what to talk about. He texted us this morning and said, you guys want to talk? And of course, me and Cody teamed up on him. No. Don't want to. That's your job. But, you know, I got to thinking, and I was like, well, what would Keenan Clark say at something like this? Because that's what I did all year. If I didn't know what to do, I called Keenan. Hey, what do you do in this situation? And, you know, one thing that gets passed over, and I know everybody says, good job, Coach Cappi, blah, 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 but nobody really knows how good of a coach this guy was. I mean, Brett Dial is a phenomenal coach, and I think he's a very good athletic director. And he had applicants apply for this that had head coaching experience and had years of it and could have came in and ran their own program. And he didn't want that. He wanted Will Cappi, and there's a reason for that. He won't get outworked. He's always going to learn it. I can't tell you how many nights we stay up talking, trying to figure out new ways to do this. We go to McCracken County, and we tell the girls all the time, that was the best thing for them to be in the moment. But we learned at that game. And you find a head coach that's willing to go ahead and put something in that late in the season, you don't find that very often. So that's one thing. Also, if you ever came early to a practice and watched some of our practices, I think that he schedules the best practices around. And the reason being, I'm not just saying that because I'm his assistant coach. We go up to the state tournament and we practice on Thursday, and there's 3 fields around us. So there's 3 teams practicing at the same time. And you see typical batting practice. You see some, stuff you see at a practice. He texted me before we went up there and said, hey, I need a whistle. And you need a whistle. So bring these whistles up. He's always thinking outside the box. We've got a drill because evidently we had a problem late in the year where our players thought that it was okay to take off before the pitcher got rid of the ball. And so we decided to work a drill, and it involved 2 whistles. So we're up there doing that, and you look over and you see some of these teams, these coaches looking over back at us. And, we've got girls in the outfield diving for balls that were perfectly hit balls. But you got girls diving for balls. You got infielders diving for balls in the infield, several hitting stations. There wasn't a team up there that practiced like that. And that's all on him. He did such a good job with that I feel like we were always prepared. We played 35 games this year, and I never once felt like we were outcoached. And that's him leading the charge there. Also, like I had no experience with softball, he had no experience calling pitches. Now, granted, he had the 2 best pitchers in the state, in my opinion. But at the same time, he's calling every pitch. You don't have Bailey and Avery coming into the dugout harping at him or mumbling to the players about his pitch calls. And they're striking people out. We're winning 1-0, 2-0 games all season long. So, this guy, not only did he take it on from a volunteer level, he took it on like that. And, I think one of the other things that I admire the most about him is Brett Dial. That could be intimidating because not only are you replacing him, but he's his boss. So you've got, in my opinion, the most particular guy that I know as his boss, and he was never intimidated. Matter of fact, we use him, he continued to use those guys as resources, brought them in at the right times, used them for this and that, and he did a phenomenal job. And he wasn't scared just to follow in Brett Dial's footsteps. Like, it wasn't like that, because I remember Brett talking to us early. He said, we were talking about bunting and stealing bases. He's like, well, I wouldn't do it that much because we got the ability to 1 through 9 to hit a home run. So if you get a girl on, don't steal a base. Well, I'm sorry. Brett Dial is very good. He's the best there is. But we won Tuscola on small ball. And we stole bases like crazy early. And that's all on him. So good job, Coach. Coach Ashton. Girls, how do you spell fun? We also had the best buffer assistant coach that you can ever imagine. This guy, it seemed like 3/4 of the season, Cappi and I are continually talking. Can you believe Coach Ashton knows all that stuff? Just a book of knowledge he is, and his patience with us. He never was trying to ever tell Cappi, do this or do that. And he did a phenomenal job. I can't wait to get back with him in the summer and learn some pitching because that guy has some things that I need to take away from him. But I want to do a couple thank yous and then I'll be done. Parents, Coach Cappi hit it all on the head. Thank you very much for your support. If him and I would tell you that we weren't worried about what you think, we'd be lying. And especially, but we never ever heard, well, Brett and Keenan wouldn't have done that. We never heard that, and that's huge. And it was never an issue. And I know you guys had 2 of the best two of the best in the state. You guys come in, and you guys were patient, and I appreciate your support. You do a good job raising your kids. Your kids are phenomenal people, and good job with that. Last but not least, players. Thank you very much for this year. And just like the parents accepted us, you guys did too. We never, ever had to worry about you know, problems. There was no problems whatsoever with this team. You did one of the reasons why I said this is the best thing that happened is because how hard you girls played. And I said this to our football coaches. I said, I wish I could have our football players see our girls do the bomb drill, which is a drill where you throw balls and they're diving like crazy. If you did that with a group of boys, they're going to look at you like you're crazy. And, I mean, they made that so much fun. They believed in it, and the most important thing was they never let the moment get too big for them. You see, I mean, we go to Trico, and Trico came back on us. There wasn't any blaming anybody on that. You know, it was, okay, we lost the game, but it's not the end of the world. Tuscola game extra inning. The moment was never too big for you. You know, you never looked ahead. It would have been very easy to overlook West Frankfort, and you didn't. You know, you got the W there, and then you beat Carmine. And ladies, you did a phenomenal job this year. Good job. Last thing is Jerry Kill came and talked to the girls, and he told us, and I think this makes a good point. This is the last thing I want to brag on these girls. Good players make good coaches. So all that I said about Cappi and Ashton and myself, it wouldn't have happened for them. So that's all I got. This is good.
Over, baby.
I tell you what, parents, I know how it feels, all right? It's a wonderful thing for this to happen to your kids, all right? It's been 8 years for me and mine, and we still watch the DVD, all right? That's something, Christmas time when they're home or whatever, there it goes in the DVD. Do you remember that play? Oh, this is coming up, or whatever. So this is a wonderful, wonderful time for you, and I just can't explain how happy I am for your girls. They've worked a long time for this. So anyway, I just want to say thank you to you guys for letting me coach them, all right? They are wonderful girls, all right? I am old and retired. I get to come to practice every day, and I get to see smiling faces, all right? It's a privilege, all right, to see smiling faces. They learn a little bit. We know what a can of corn is now. All right, Rachel never heard that before. All right, and we take up our shoe tying time. Some of us tie our shoes. Some of us just slip spikes on. I've never seen that before, but they slip their spikes on. Anyway, we talk about what we had for lunch today, or what we had for breakfast, or what's going on, and I get to be a part of that. It gives me something to be a part of. And there's nothing better in this whole world than to be a part of a team. All right? You hear people talk team. You guys out in the workforce, I worked, I heard that team stuff. They don't know what a team is. What it is, it's a boss telling you what to do. And teammates don't tell teammates what to do. Teammates work for each other, all right? And that's what these girls did, all right? From 1 to 18 or 19, they worked for each other. Some of them didn't get as much playing time as they would have liked to have had. And sometimes that's forgotten, but when we talk about adversity, who stepped in when there was adversity? Who stepped in? Sophie Laird stepped up at her. I'll never forget that smash she caught at Harrisburg on the ground. Mm-hmm. The glove found it, didn't it? So Sophie's eyes were this big. All right? And there's some kids that stepped up and did their job. That's what I say. How do we spell fun? W-I-N. What's my other thing? Do your job. All right? Do your job. You do your job. You do your job. You do your job. We have fun in W-I-N. All right? So before I go, I just want you to know what a great group they are and what a privilege it's been for me to be able to be around. It really has been. I'd like to thank my wife because, like I said, this is something that God started a long time ago, and I am very, very proud to be a part of this in this town. All right, that we have got a great school system, we've got great administrators, we've got great coaches, and it's just a lot of fun to be around. And I want to thank these two for giving me the opportunity. And one other thing, I'm going to tell Sean's story. Out at the golf course last year, we were talking, and who's going to be the softball coach? I know it ain't going to be me, all right? That's all I can tell you, all right? And I said, you need to get into softball, all right? Because girls are the best thing to coach. If you'd have told me that 35, 40 years ago, I'd have said, oh, no, not girls. But you know what? Girls do what you ask them to do, all right? They don't think they know more than you do, all right? They do what you ask them to do. And this bunch here did everything we ever asked them to do, all right? So thank y'all, and we'll see you.
We're running a little long. You know, that's okay. It's a special moment. I want you to take a look real quick at each other. This is probably the last time you're all going to be in the same room together. It is. It's a special moment. And Coach Martin, he was one of our first guest speakers. And he came in, it was the Saturday before we played Mundelein. And he talked to our girls and just delivered a phenomenal message. There's one other thing I want to do. I don't know if it's on the thing, but the Safkas, fantastic jobs on the shirts. Jinx, when she sends me the sample of the shirt an hour or two before we play Dupo in the state championship game. I'm thinking, I'm not going to respond to this until after the game. But very good job, and obviously a very quick turnaround, and they look awesome. So thank you. And I've also got a former speech teacher here, or my former speech teacher in Mrs. Dawson. So I'm kind of nervous, and I'm trying to do everything I learned in high school speech. And looking at my papers, if you see me, I know it's kind of looked down upon in speech. So I'm just trying to kind of take so just add a little bit more pressure. But Coach Martin came in and spoke to our girls, and he told two great stories, and one of them being probably about somebody you all know, and his name's Casey Ward. And I'm going to go ahead and talk to the story. Casey Ward was a very good wide receiver on our state championship football team. He was the main target his sophomore and junior year. But then his senior year, the main target was Mark Chastain. And, Casey Ward didn't get as much attention because people were covering. And during the semifinal game against DuQuoin, which I was in 6th grade, it's one of those I'll never forget where I was at moments. Casey Ward, I want to say, had 200 plus yards receiving and 2 touchdowns, one of them being the game-winning one that sent to the state championship game. And you're probably thinking, where's he going with this? Well, Coach Martin delivered the message of legacy. And how do you want to be remembered? Casey Ward never complained that he was the second option. And when his time came, he had the biggest moment in the history of our football program. So when the lights were on, he shined. Or off, he shined. So instead of, telling, each of our kids' individual stats, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to talk about each individual player and how I feel their legacy will be when they leave this program. How when somebody asks me about Mackenzie Rodman, how I think of her, how us as a coaching staff thinks of her. So again, or Kelsey Ashton, somebody who came in and worked with our kids throughout the year. I remember Kelsey Ashton. Man, she was mean. On the field, she was mean. And you know what? It wasn't like a bad mean, like I'm gonna spike you or play dirty. But she was mean. Carly Callahan was kind of quiet, Lexi Callahan, she was a vocal leader. She'd be somebody who said, if you're not doing your job, she's gonna let you know about it. Those are the type of how I remember those players. And I kind of want to talk about each one of our kids in that light, as opposed to saying, she hit 330, 2 home runs, 20 RBI. You can't put numbers to an individual. You put personalities and characteristics to an individual. And I think this is a special talent and a special group of young ladies. And I want to recognize them for who they are, not what they did. All right, so I'm gonna announce, give your applause as they come up. I'm gonna announce it by class. Hopefully it doesn't. Hopefully I don't forget their names like I did at the state championship banquet. But when I name their class, you can get your letter and come on up. The first person I want to announce, she's not here. She's on vacation. Anna Hartford. Anna was our main courtesy runner, and as a freshman, that's a tall task because our base running is something we take a lot of pride in, and we have probably more base running plays than any team in the state. She was very aggressive, and at times made some silly mistakes, but she learned from them, and she continued to have confidence. And she wasn't she was a player that if I jumped on, she didn't shy away. She wanted another chance. She is somebody that responds to coaching. She is going to be big in our plans in the future. As the year went on, when we were doing BP, she would mash. I'm not joking. She would put balls on the warning track as a freshman. That's unheard of. She is somebody I'm looking forward to seeing the growth throughout her tenure as a Lion. So our first freshman was Anna Hart, who's not here. Summer Rains, come on up. Summer caught our JV innings for us. I'm going to stay on that side. She was our main bullpen catcher. Her role in the postseason was vital because we had 2 pitchers that we could bring in, and we needed to have them to be able to warm up. So Summer was able to do that, and her being able to do that was extremely important because if we didn't have that, then Bailey isn't able to get warmed up if she's coming in for relief, or Avery's not able to get warmed up if she's coming in for relief. Now we have gone to tournaments before and dressed a player up just so they could catch a bullpen. It is very important, and Summer did her job and played her role perfectly. It's a very good job, Summer. Mackenzie Rodman. I'll always remember Mackenzie. She started 29 games as a freshman. As a freshman for the #1 ranked team in the state. I come up to her before the super sectional game and say, Avery's going to play second. She could have, just shut down right there. But she didn't. She kept her head up and said, yes, sir, I will do what you need me to do. Sure enough, she did. And probably the biggest game and the biggest situation in the tightest game, she lays down a perfect squeeze play to win the game against Tuscola. They had no idea it was coming. Even if they did know it was coming, they wouldn't have thrown out Avery because it was perfectly executed. And then, on top of all that, she comes in late in the state semifinal game and in the state championship game and makes outstanding defensive plays. But what I'll always remember, she always had her head up. Never, not once, did she complain or put her head down when Avery came in.
Yeah.
Mackenzie and our freshman. Coach Ashton always tells me, you need 3 good players in all your classes to be a successful program. And we have that with these 3 right here. Very good, girls. Okay. Next person I'm going to introduce is on vacation as well. City Manja. Sid batted cleanup for us all year. She was also selected all-conference. But Sydney, at the beginning of the year, we had her trying out as catcher. And at times, she had a little mental funk as far as her throwing was concerned. And she worked on it and worked on it and worked on it until the end of the year, she was able to throw fine, back to her normal throwing, and she started gaining that confidence again. And because of that, we were able to put her at first base for our stretch run. She handled, game-winning RBI against Carmi, had 2 hits against Carmi. So just her and her hard work and her dedication towards her craft is what we'll remember and how her legacy will be left for the 2016 season. Olivia Safka. Olivia battled injury late in the year. She could have mailed it in right there. Like Coach Ashton said, sometimes she probably didn't get the playing time you deserved and that you worked for. And it would have been easy to just hang it up. But I think she thought that she was a part of something that was special. And what she did is, what impressed me the most, you were at every practice. You didn't have to come to practice. Well, you did if you wanted to. But she was at every practice. Anything we needed, she took care of. Music. Hair on the bus. Scoreboard. But again, that goes back to kind of something that we described our team with as selfless. It wasn't about her. She didn't make it about her. She continued to do her job. And Olivia, that's how we'll remember you, as selfless. Hannah Schulmeister. There is no question in my mind that she is the best center fielder in Southern Illinois. Not one question. She is effortless out there. Now, what do I mean by that? It means she makes everything look simple. She is smooth out there, can track anything down, and the Tuscola game, that was a game changer for what she did. She threw a ball, if you remember, they were jumping on us early, and they had a chance to put more up, and Hannah Schulmeister throws a girl out at third base from center field. That all of a sudden shifted all that momentum that they had to our dugout. Hannah was also selected all-conference, and I also attribute Hannah to being the one that danced the most on the team. I never heard that kid not singing every song. But she had a fine year for us, and I'm really looking forward to the future with her as well. Montana Taylor. One word comes to mind when I think of Montana. That's gamer. When she steps in between the line, she's really nice. She's a really nice kid, but when you step in between the lines, she's got that Kelsey Ashton mentality that she's gonna do whatever it takes to win. And the Dupo game, the backhand on the short hop, diving back to third base to get the out, that is high level. That is very high level softball right there. And it was again a momentum shifter. They're rallying right there, and Montana ends the rally by diving, making the play at third base. Montana are also our leading hitter on the team this year. She was selected all conference, all South, and all state as well. Congratulations. Aaron Moore. Oh, yeah, that's right. When I talk about depth for this team, Aaron Moore is one of those kids who I think could start for just about any team in Southern Illinois. She plays very good defense in left and right field, and even and courtesy ran for us too. When we had a couple outfielders out for, I want to say, it was some extracurricular activity. I had no issue with putting Aaron Moore in the outfield because I knew she would lock it down out there. She, again, is one of those that because of the depth and because of what she can do, the injuries that we faced, it felt like we were still at 100% even when we put Aaron Moore out there. She never, ever, not once, complained about playing time. And she was good enough. She is good enough to play anywhere. But what she did is she kept her head up. She came what I call work. She came to softball practice every day, gave it 100% every day. And when those around you are giving their best effort, they're going to make everybody else better. And Aaron Moore did that. You made everybody better. Rachel Venable. I got to know Rachel a lot better this year, and she is as witty as they come. We are, and I've known her mom. I've talked with her mom, for years before, and I never really got to know Rachel until this year. And we're working that 5K at the Hadley and Haven Noto 5K, and there was a DJ playing the song, and I think it was an Usher song. Yeah. And she goes, "Hey, Coach Cap, you like this song?" I said, "Well, yes, I do." And she goes, "Well, you'd hear it a lot more if you put me in." Because it was her walk-up song. So, her teammates, as you can tell, absolutely adore her. There was not one person who wasn't asking about Rachel when she had some sick illness, in the middle of the year. And I was concerned, and we're just very grateful that everything, she was okay. But again, I think my biggest regret as the coach was I didn't get Rachel Venable enough innings. I didn't. And that's something that I hope to improve upon next year with some of our younger kids. But you know what? She never said a word about it. She never complained. She did her job. And she filled a vital role for us. Madison McBride. Madison was huge for us at the Greenville tournament. You know, it was a hot, miserable day, and I'm thinking, can we just get out of here before somebody else gets hurt? And Madison McBride comes in, and, you know, Bailey had gone down in the first game. Madison comes in, plays first base, and has 4 RBIs against Cumberland, which was extremely important because we short-gamed Cumberland. And we had one pitcher having to throw because, again, Rachel was sick, and Avery was having to throw, and we didn't want all of our kids to have to throw 15, 16 innings in a game. And Madison McBride comes in, and helps her bat is what propelled us to a short game against Cumberland. She's another one that, she could start anywhere in Southern Illinois. And I'm really looking forward to her role next year. She will be, it'll be very pivotal for our success next year. And I'm really looking forward to seeing her growth as well. Sophie Laird. Sophie is somebody that the coaches and we had to get at bats for. You don't hear, especially in baseball, I'm a baseball guy, you don't hear many people saying, oh, that right-hander, he's got a nice swing. You hear about left-handers all the time. Left-handers have great swings, they all do, it infuriates me. But Sophie Laird might have the most textbook right-handed swing I've seen. And she is just somebody that we had to find at bats for. We had to find at bats for. We're trying to get her at bats in the game. And finally, we were able to figure out through the substitution pattern that we started that, Coach Jeralds is responsible for. We could finally get her in a bat and get her 3-4 at bats in a game. And, against Dupo, she smokes one down the left field line. And the left fielder made an outstanding play, cutting that ball off and keeping it from getting to the fence. But once she got in that lineup and hit in that 5-hole, that 6-hole, she never looked back. She was not going to give that spot back up. And, she protected it very well and was a major part of our success in the postseason run. Very good, so. Marissa Hunley. Marissa ran into some bad luck at the beginning of the year. Now, many of you probably don't know, but we're doing a little pre-practice. Coach Ashton's hitting ground balls. Coach Jeralds is hitting pop flies. Coach Jeralds hits a pop fly, and Marissa's fielding the ground ball and hits her right top of the head. It's not funny. Actually, once we found out, she was okay. But Marissa, we're like, oh, it feels terrible. Coach and I went and checked on her after practice to make sure everything was okay. Well, then the next day she comes back to practice, and we're working on outfield drills, and I run her into a softball, and she twists her ankle. She stepped right on a softball and twisted her ankle. Again, I'm glad she was okay. And she didn't get a starting job right off the bat. And it's kind of like the story of our success. She could have quit. She could have stopped working. She could have, been talking about people behind their back. That was not her. She kept her head up. She kept working. She got into the lineup, and she played a phenomenal right field for us. A very good right field for us. And we are going to miss her dearly. Not just her, softball ability, but her personality, her attitude, her friendship to the teammates. We're going to miss her dearly. And I'm sure many of you have heard the story, but I completely left the track in that state championship banquet dinner. And I couldn't remember her name. My next door neighbor, my teammate, I'm thinking, gosh, what's her? Because I always call the kids by their nicknames, and finally I just said, Hot Rod Hunley. And it may have been the most embarrassing experience of my life in front of 150 kids and all the coaches. But Marissa was a good sport and, didn't give me too much grief about it. But Marissa Hunley, you will be missed. I think this, if you just tough, extremely tough. As she's walking around in a soft cast with a broken nose. Now, I promise you, I had described her as this before I saw all of that. But she was not somebody who was afraid of contact. And I admire that. I really do. I really love somebody who's not afraid to get dirty and to welcome contact. And kind of what I mean by that is we're at Anna Jonesboro. And I don't know what Coach Jeralds and Megan were doing, but she's halfway to second base, and the pitcher's got the ball, or the first baseman has the ball. So she just starts jogging back to first base. First baseman's got the ball, and she just lowers her head right into the first baseman. I'm thinking, oh my gosh. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, I am furious right now, but that was tough. You don't find people that are willing to just lower their shoulder into somebody. And more evidence right now. Poor kid's got a broken nose from basketball, and I'm not sure what you did to your knee, but make sure you get it taken care of before next spring. Megan was also, she's somebody that's not afraid to ask questions. I teach kindergarten for a living, and sometimes when you're talking, you're like, you're thinking to yourself, do these kids have any idea what I'm saying right now? And sometimes you think that on the softball field. I'm trying to tell them something like, do they even have an idea of what I mean right now? Megan wasn't afraid to ask. And I always knew that, she understood the point we were trying to get across because she wasn't afraid to ask questions. Megan was all conference and all South this year. Bailey Custer. Before the postseason started, Bailey had a name. And, but the people who didn't know Bailey at the time, they know her now. And they're thinking to themselves, oh my gosh, Carterville is going to be dominant again next year. She had 6 of our 7 postseason wins. And she stepped, when Avery went down, Bailey stepped up and took the ball, and there was no fear. When you get in a situation where, it's your first little bit of postseason experience, there's some nerves. You could not tell that with Bailey. She went in and locked it down. And without her taking that lead, I think it's safe to say we don't win this. There's a story that that the day we played West Frankfort, the next day we played we have Carmine next. It's supposed to be on a Saturday. Now all of a sudden they're like, oh, we're gonna try to beat the rain. So they're like, we're gonna schedule it for Thursday. Well, then Thursday it rained. Then Friday it rained, and then it ended up being regularly scheduled on Saturday. But one of the things that we talked about with our girls was control what you can control. You can control how you prepare. You can't control this weather, but you can control how you prepare. And when we got the call that we were playing on Thursday, Bailey Custer sends me a text and says, I need to throw. This was it, after practice. And this was 3-4 hours later. I need to throw. And I meet her down with Coach Ashton at the field. And I'll never forget what she said. She said, I'm going to outwork Kaylee Chapman. Whoa, okay. And when I heard those words, I said, we're going to win this thing. Because I knew we had dedication. And I knew that we were going to outwork everybody else. Bailey also received honors of All Conference and All South as well. Congratulations. If you take a look, that group of 7, our freshmen, our 3 freshmen, our 4 sophomores, if we stay healthy and catch a few breaks, man, we've got a great opportunity to get back to where we were and to bring another one of these back here. Great opportunity. The future looks bright. All right, now for seniors. Our first senior I'm going to announce, Chelsea Gooden. One week before the season started, we didn't have a catcher. Nobody really wanted to step up and take the job. And I'll be honest, it's a job that there was some big footsteps to fill. Some very big footsteps to fill. And Chelsea Gooden, I asked her, I said, I know your knees have bothered you in the past. I said, are you willing to take on this role? Absolutely, was her response. And that was probably my biggest concern going into the season, is who's going to catch. And when Chelsea Gooden told me she was going to, and then when I saw her actually catch, I wasn't worried. I felt a lot more reassured about what was getting ready to happen. She went down mid-season, and I felt, it was very tough to watch. And I understand, it was extremely tough for her, not to be playing. But I guess what I want her to realize is the role that you play and what you sacrificed for your team will never be forgotten. If we wouldn't have had you catching in the beginning of the year, the success that we had early would not have happened. And when you don't have success early, it could tear your team apart. But you allowed us to have the success we had. And Chelsea, you sacrificed everything for your team. I will never forget that, and we will always be in debt to you. Alicia Dawson. Hey, Alicia may have been involved in the most extracurricular activities in school history. But you know what? She managed it well. And she hadn't caught in 2 years, and then was fantastic in right field. She was a great right fielder. Led the team in assists from the outfield the year before. And then when Chelsea went down, we approached her, and I think she was a little nervous, and that's okay. But when we asked her to do it like a senior leader, like we expect, she stepped up and she did it. And she did it flawlessly. One play comes to mind was in the Dupo game. They tried to bunt in the first inning, and she hops back there, bare hands it, and throws the runner out. Because that first out in the 7th inning is the biggest out. It's such a momentum shifter. And they tried to get on, and Alicia kept them from doing that. And it was a high level play. As a coach, when you're calling pitches, there are some pitches that you shy away from because you're afraid your catcher can't handle it. Wasn't the case. I was extremely confident knowing that Alicia could catch anything that we threw back there. And again, Alicia put her own personal interests, in the back seat and stepped up to support her team and take that catcher's role. Becky Peterson. I don't think there's any question who our vocal leader was. Yeah. Becky was a 4-year starter for us and just played an outstanding left field. I'll never forget conversations that we had at Coach Dial's house trying to get her in, find a way to get her glove in left field as a freshman. And I think we were playing Massac County in the regionals at Vienna. She put winning before anything else. All that mattered to her was winning. First person off the field would be her. She'd be getting the dugout going. She would be letting the kids know, we need to be loud. We need to be loud. And every team, I've heard people say that you don't necessarily need a vocal leader on your team. I don't believe that. I think there's a need for a vocal leader on every single team. And Becky Peterson was that for us. Becky, her hard work paid off. And her senior year, she makes all conference. Congratulations. And our last senior, Avery English. Avery's going to leave Carterville High School as the most decorated athlete in school history. Four-time All-State, All-South, and All-Conference. And, I'll remember Avery as just a tireless worker. Somebody who worked as hard on the field and off the field. I think so. At one point, I think it kind of ran her down just a little bit because she was having to take, AP tests and, pitch every day, and but she never complained. Never. It was. I understand. I'm sure it was hard for her, towards the end. But the one thing I'll never forget, and this is when I thought, okay, this is something that could be special. It was the day of the Heron-Vienna game. And Avery goes down with the arm injury against Heron. Instead of sitting at the end of the bench sulking, she's right next to the coaches and I'm asking her for advice. But then we win that game against Heron on a line drive up the middle. We got lucky because we called a shift there, and she just happened to hit it right to her. But the first and it was an exciting game. Man, it was exciting. And, Heron Carterville, that's starting to become a little bit of a rivalry. But the first person out on the field and hugging Bailey was Avery English. And I'll never forget that because, again, that's all I needed to see. That's selflessness. That's a competitive drive and would do anything to win. Winning is what's most important. This group of seniors, it's tough to let go of them. I've watched them since they've been in 6th grade. I can't really believe how time flies. They were in 6th grade. And now, I'll never get to see them play together again. But what a career they had, and what a legacy they've left behind. And that concludes this evening's ceremonies. And